It's cold and wet and snowy, and I can't drive my Corvette. Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of the new seat saga. In this video, I'll be installing the Corbeau Evolution X fixed back seats into my C5 Corvette. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the old seats. Let's get started. So the first step in removing your stock seats is to pull these covers off of the 15mm bolts, just like that. And now you'll see we've revealed one of the 4 15mm bolts. The next step is to go ahead and just remove all 4 of them. Just like in my previous videos, I'll be using the Harbor Freight XT, Earthquake XT cordless ratchet. And you guys know I'm in love with this tool. You can use it as a regular ratchet, just like this. And once you break the bolt free, you can zip it right off, just like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take off the other cover on the other side, closest to the tunnel there, and remove all 4 bolts. Here we see an electrical connection right here, one that we can reach without pulling the seat off and out of the car. So I usually like to remove any electrical connections under the seat that I can reach before I remove the seat. It just makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes it's a little bit of work to get your hands down into a tight spot, but there you go. Okay, I just removed all 4 nuts from the 4 studs that hold the driver's side seat in. The other thing I did was I laid down a moving blanket here to cover up the door sill. You do that so that you don't end up scratching the door sill up with the feet on the base of the seat here. Now I've had this seat out before, and it's not necessarily light. It's somewhat heavy, bulky, and cumbersome. So you want to be careful when you start taking it out here. Another tip would be to move the steering wheel up and out of the way. And there we go. Okay, now that the seat's out, this is a perfect time to vacuum. Okay, with the seat out, you can see the mounting studs for the seats. And you'll also notice that there's no carpet here, because these covers mounted to the seat brackets of the old seats, they will no longer cover up that space there. But I've got a plan, and we'll see if we can't fix that somehow. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install the seat base onto the Corbeau Evo X fixed back seat. The first thing we want to do though is remove the 4 bolts that will hold the base to the seat. Then what we need to do is we need to make sure that the seat base is all the way in the forward position. We're going to lay the base onto the seat, and we're going to loosely install the front 2 bolts. Now, this seat base in the front has 2 slots, and it has 2 holes. So there's a slot on each side, a hole, and then a slot. And I believe that's there for adjustability. However, to install in the C5 Corvette or just to install onto this seat specifically, you're going to use the slots in the front. You also want to be very careful when installing the hardware that you don't strip out the bottom of the seats here. And you have to screw in these bolts far enough so that the seat track can slide forward, but loose enough so there's some play and adjustability when we go and install the rear bolts. So the next thing we need to do is we need to slide the tray up all the way. And now we can see the two rear bolts. And because the front ones are bolted into slots, there's some adjustability, which makes these holes fairly easy to line up. We want to make sure there's no tension on there as we're screwing these in, so we don't end up stripping anything out. If there is tension, you can take it off a little bit as you're screwing in. Now all of those bolt holes lined up perfectly in the back. Then we'll get our ratchet here and we'll tighten them down. Now there's one other thing we have to do before we install these seats in the car, and that is install the seat belt receptacle or receiver from the old seat onto this new seat here. And that's what we'll do next. I'm going to go ahead and install the seat belt receiver from the passenger seat, the old passenger seat, onto the new seat here. Now these nuts thread on kind of tight, and there's a plastic washer on the end and a plastic bushing that, there you go, that gets seated into the hole. And you want to do that before you get it too tight here. And what that allows for is once you get it tightened down, the seatbelt has a little bit of movement to it, a little bit of flex in there. The other thing I want to show you is I have the old seat next to the new seat. And the old seat is in the driving position that I typically drove in. And you can see that they are very close. Even though this is a fixed back and this is adjustable, the angles of the seats are very, very close. Also, you can see the height of the seats are very similar, and obviously a lot more bolstering in the seat. Okay, we're ready to install the new seat over here on the driver's side. And remember these studs coming through here and the carpet missing. What I decided to do was to get an old wool hat or winter hat that was black, and I cut patches out to fit into this space. Now ultimately what I might end up doing, I guess I didn't cut that one quite large enough. What I might end up doing is maybe going to a fabric store and seeing if I can't find something that's a little bit better of a match. But for right now, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, moment of truth. We're about to put the Corbeau Evo X fixed back seat into my C5. Here we go. As you can see, I have both seats installed now. And man, they look awesome. They really update the look of the inside of this interior. And the red stitching goes really well with the red stitching on my shift boot and also on my e-brake boot. Installation of the passenger seat was much easier than the driver's seat, only because I had the process down after doing the driver's seat. So I knew exactly what to do and how to fit the passenger seat in. Now, I've read reviews on these seats and these seat bases for the C5 Corvette, and I've seen people having to drill out the mounting holes so that everything would line up. I didn't have any problems lining up the holes. Everything lined up perfectly. Perhaps Corbeau updated the design on their bases and on their seats, because I had no problems. Everything went together well, bolted into the car fine, and everything fit. Now, I will say, first impressions, I mean, this is a stiff seat, but isn't that why you buy racing seats? Because you want that stiff feel. The shoulder bolsters hold my shoulders in real tight, and the seating position is really good in terms of the recline of the back. I don't think I'm gonna miss being able to recline the seat. It's just, I don't think it's necessary. This one closely resembles the same incline or decline of the factory seat that I had in here. So I don't know that I'm gonna necessarily need to change the angle of the seat. Now, I will say, I'm a tall guy. I'm about 6'2", I weigh about 215 pounds, and the bottom of my thighs are not touching the top of the seat surface down here, which I think on a long drive could become uncomfortable. So the only reason I would decide to maybe shim the bottom of the seat bracket up front is so that I can bring the bottom of the top of the seat in contact with the bottom of my thighs. That might make it a little bit more comfortable. Nothing is rubbing here on the shoulder bolster on this side, and of course there's nothing over here for it to rub into. It's the same case on the passenger side. Nothing's touching over there from the shoulder bolster. Now, what I will say is there is a little bit down low where the seat belt is on the driver's side and also on the passenger side. There's a little bit of rubbing there, and also on the tunnel, the plastic trim around the tunnel here. And you know, when you move around, you can kind of hear that. So if you're not as tall and you have your seat up a little further, you're not going to have any problems. I think it's the tall guys in these seats that need to put them back far enough is where you're going to make that contact. So I may play around with that and see if there's something I can do to remedy that situation. It's about 10-15 degrees out here. The snow's coming down, the roads are covered in salt and ice, and I really want to get this car out and take it for a drive and see how these seats feel, because it definitely feels like a different car. The experience is quite different than the stock seats. So I'm really looking forward to filming my reaction video and giving you my thoughts on the seat as I'm driving. Well, that's it for part 2 of the new seat saga. Stay tuned for part 3 when I give you my driving impressions. Now, if you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the like button while you're down there. And don't forget to leave me a comment. I really enjoy interacting with other people that love cars and Corvettes just as much as I do. Till next time, see ya.